Hey, welcome to Tyler Talks. I'm Tyler from ActiveBeat, and today I'm talking about something called the Paleolithic diet, or Paleo diet, whatever you want to call it. You've probably heard of it, and if you haven't, we'll catch you up. Basically, I'll be talking about what it is, whether or not it works, or is it even accurately named. Spoiler, it's not really. The gist of it is, if you eat like our ancestors, you're going to 1. Lose weight, 2. Keep off illnesses, and 3. Be at the peak of your health. That's a lot to cover. Let's get started with the paleo diet. So for background, where did this whole concept come from? Well, the idea was prescribed by Dr. Lauren Cordain, who wrote the Paleo diet. At the basic level, it sort of claims that our diets should be consisting of things like lean meats, fish, leafy greens, nuts, berries, and no processed foods or excess sugars. And we'll talk more about the specific foods that are in the diet and what foods are cut out later on. But the idea here is that humans have taken thousands of years to evolve, and our bodies are probably still best aligned with this sort of older diet from the Paleolithic era. That's what the claim is. Now, the last couple hundred years have really seen a ramp up in processed foods and the intake of stuff like that. But for 2 million years ago, we ate paleo style, so it's probably better, right? Well, that's what we're getting into. So let's talk about this whole Paleolithic era historically. Now, we're talking about an era between 2.5 million years ago up till about 10,000 years ago. So no dinosaurs. Humans didn't eat them. This is a different time period. This is before we figured out agriculture, which changed the entire world. Basically, this is a period where we can probably historically acknowledge the development of the most primitive stone tools being discovered. Mind you, this is a long period of time. 2 million years, 2.5 million years in span. So a lot changed over that time, and the Paleolithic era, across the entire world, was pretty significant. When it comes to the people of the Paleo era, well, society didn't really exist at large. Humans lived and quote-unquote worked in small bands or groups. It's sort of best known as that concept of the hunter-gatherer, where people lived on gathering plants, fishing, and hunting animals as a very simple lifestyle. There were no jobs, there were no politics, it was just hunt, gather. It's pretty simple, right? Almost sounds kind of nice. Anyways, the actual diet of these people, well, they were eating a lot of plant foods and doing some hunting. But the thing is, I can't really say exactly what their diet was because there wasn't one paleo diet back in our ancestors' times. The food came from their environment and everyone was in a different environment. So as you can see already, and you might be getting a hint of this, the paleo diet can't really be aligned with a single historical diet that our ancestors had. If our ancestors lived near the sea, then they had a lot of fish in their diets, and it's as simple as that. So there's a little bit of a misalignment there. People were eating what was around them. So I mean, if you're going to do this whole paleo diet thing, shouldn't you be eating what's within a reasonable distance of you? I mean, technically, you'd probably have to go full hunter-gatherer to actually replicate the paleo diet. Not exactly something possible in today's world. Mind you, I'm being very literal. So what's going on then with this Paleolithic diet? Well, we know it isn't exactly the same as it was 10,000 to a million years ago. I mean, if you're eating oranges from the southern United States and avocados from overseas, is it really the same? Well, no. In response to this, some people will argue that if you eat as your ancestors ate, say, a couple hundred years ago, instead of 10,000 years ago, you're still doing the same thing. But really, it's not really the same thing. At that point, you might as well call it the medieval diet, or early modern era diet, or something like that. So the name doesn't really line up to the concept entirely. It's sort of just a metaphor, I guess you could say. So let's talk about the actual foods. So, you're keeping to things like meats, nuts, seeds, leafy greens, fruits, simple things like that. It's sort of like taking a step back and just getting the raw goods. But the thing is, you're cutting out quite a few foods, so let's talk about that. You're getting rid of dairy products, grains, legumes, processed foods, of course, or refined sugar, salt, or alcohol and coffee, because they were obviously not around back then. Now the thing is, dairy isn't going to be around because we hadn't domesticated cows yet. So where are you going to get your calcium? Well, vegetables, hopefully. And of course grains, those aren't going to be around because that's pre-agriculture. There's going to be no legumes and potatoes because once again, those weren't being cultivated back then. If you're taking the paleo diet really literally, it might not be the best idea if you want to eat well. At least that's the way it seems to be currently. Okay, so maybe this is what you're waiting for. Is this a legit diet? Well, I'm not here to say whether this diet is no good or exactly what you need. There are a lot of other people on the internet who can do that for you if that's what you want. Basically, everything needs to be in moderation, and the things that we have access to now are a lot different than they were 10,000 years ago. Even the foods that you would find in a Paleolithic diet that are still around today are still not really the same foods. Just like humans, foods have changed over thousands and millions of years. The berries, nuts, and seeds that you might be having are probably not exactly the same as the berries, nuts, and seeds that existed a million years ago. So the whole paleo term is a bit of a blanket term that you need to be careful with. But with all that said, and I know that sounded negative, there are some positives here. For one, the paleo diet can offer a great guide to move towards a healthier eating lifestyle. But if you take it really seriously and very literally, well, I mean not too literally that you're going and hunting and gathering through the city, good luck with that, but literally in the sense that you can't have any dairy, no grains, no potatoes, no legumes, well, having an absolute opinion or attitude about anything can be a little dangerous, and it never hurts to do your research. So, in conclusion, there are some issues with the terminology and the jargon, and it can be a bit misleading, but the paleo diet has a lot of components that are really worth considering. At the very least, you can use it as guidelines or as goals to cut out the bad stuff in your life. Maybe you don't need to up your intake of all the foods that are part of the paleo diet, maybe you just need to use it as a guideline for what shouldn't be there, at least with the whole processed stuff. So, we covered a lot today, and there's a lot more to talk about. The paleo diet, it's really popular right now, and I'm definitely not saying you should never try it. If you are on the paleo diet, definitely comment and let me know what you think. I'm really curious. I personally don't do it, but I find it really intriguing. Anyways, this has been Tyler Talks on the Paleo Diet. Thanks for watching. We'll see you around.